Did. So there we go. Hello, my name is Jessie Bergeman, and I'm a training specialist here with RingCentral. I have a background in adult education and user experience research and design. I'm not going to leave my video on the entire time, but I do like to just give people a chance to say hi and thank you for being here and a chance to put a face with a voice. So hello, welcome. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to turn the video off now because the lighting is just not what one would hope. So thank you again for being here today for your RingCentral end user onboarding training. Why is my slide frozen? There we go. We're in a RingCentral meeting right now, as you are well aware. A couple of things, if you haven't figured out already, you can mute and unmute yourself using that little microphone icon here in the lower left. You can also use *6 to mute and unmute yourself if you dialed in. And then lastly, if you have any questions, you can chat those over in the chat field. So I'm going to type a quick hello, and if folks could type a hello or a hi or whatever back, just so I know you're there, that would be great. As I go on, hello. Hello, hello, thank you. All right, hi Jason, hi Chris. As I go along, please feel free to jump in with questions at any point. I'm more than happy to answer them as we go along. Don't feel like you have to hold them until the very end. And again, you have a couple of different ways to join in the conversation. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to talk about activating your RingCentral extension. We'll talk about calling from anywhere, collaborating and conferencing, messaging, and then managing your extension settings. So first things first, activating your RingCentral extension. If you haven't already, you'll receive an email from support@ringcentral.com, and that email is good only for 48 hours, so you'll want to get started right away. You'll click on this Set Up Account button, and then in the first step, you will be asked to create a password. Now, if you are like me and you spend a ton of your life trying to remember passwords and logins for various things, often quite unsuccessfully, you will be happy to know that RingCentral does not ask you to reset your password. So that's the good news. Also be aware that it is case sensitive. So once you've created your password, you can create a PIN, and then this is a 6 to 10 digit PIN. It's also the PIN you'll use to check your voicemail on your physical phone. So I know some people have a certain pattern of key presses they really like. If that's you, you'll want to consider that here. After that, you'll be asked to create a security question and answer. This is something that they will ask you when you call into tech support, so just make sure it's something you feel comfortable sharing. And then after those 3 quick steps, you'll be taken to the express setup portion of things. So here during step 1, you'll be asked to verify some very basic user info like your name, your location, do we have you in the right time zone, that sort of thing. You may see a message pop up regarding emergency services. All that's saying is if you dial emergency services or 911 from the desktop application, they won't automatically know your location. So as always, safety first. During step 2, then you'll set up some basic call handling and voicemail features if you wish. Any questions so far on activating your account?
I don't think so.
Alrighty, so we'll proceed. So calling from anywhere, what does that mean? Well, with RingCentral, you're able to download the phone on your computer or your mobile device. You'll have access to all your messages in one area, voicemail, text, fax, and you can easily find and add your favorite contacts. So here, you're essentially looking at the home screen of the application on the desktop, and then the home screen for your mobile. When you're on an active call, it will look something like this. So pretty familiar features here with mute, hold, etc. But I'm going to jump out of the slideshow now just to take a closer look at this. So here, we'll click into our RingCentral phone application on the desktop. And for me, it opens on a different monitor, so I'm dragging it over. And what you're looking at is the dial pad. So one of the big key takeaways with RingCentral is that you don't need to dial any leading digits before you're placing a call. So no 1s or 9s are necessary before making a call. You can dial the numbers by clicking on the keypad and hitting the green phone icon, or you can enter someone's name and search for them as well. So a couple of ways to dial, but again, no leading digits. For me, I can hear a little like fuzziness in the background. Are you all hearing that too, or is it okay? Is it just me?
I don't hear that.
Okay. That's at least one person.
I don't
Okay.
hear it either.
Okay, great. So it's just me. So there's a bit of fuzziness here. Alrighty, so going back to our phone, we have the HUD or heads-up display. And this will let you see the availability of up to 100 internal contacts. So here we can see Alex is available as indicated by this green dot. We'll take a little closer look at this later, but just know that again, this HUD displays the availability of up to 100 internal contacts. We also have favorites, of course. Favorites differ in that you can include external contacts as well. Now, it doesn't show the availability of the external folks, but you can include them. Pretty straightforward. If we take a look at our contacts.
May I interject something real quick?
Yeah.
This is Chris. We're for the most part going to be tried that you can still continue through this. There may be some people that want to use this, but just so you know, we're going to, for the most part, try to use solely the browser and not the app, just so that we don't have to install another PC application on everyone's computer, and everyone already has Firefox or Chrome or something open all day, so another tab doesn't really invade anything for them. I don't know if that changes anything. We can still go through all this. Just want to let you know that.
Gotcha. Well, no, that is helpful. Let me see. So I go off of my training notes that come from the project manager, and it didn't mention that in there, so I really apologize. That's a helpful thing to know.
That's not your fault at all. We probably didn't even tell them. It's just something that Mick and I had decided that unless there's something that just cannot be done through the browser, we were going to try to use the browser solely.
Which makes, yeah, sure, that's fair. I was just trying to see. It works. I mean, it's all very, very similar. I was just trying to see if I could quickly switch over and just do it in the browser with our test account, which should work. Let's see. Give me one quick second. I'm glad you said something because obviously we want it to be as relevant as we can. I'm just not sure.
Right.
One moment here. Apologies.
Sure. No, that's probably our fault, not yours.
Let's see. All right. Yeah, I might not be able to switch over. I'm not sure if I can switch over at the moment, but it is very similar in terms of functionality. So
it is. We can continue going through this.
Okay.
There still may be some people using this. I don't know if we're going to have home users using this, or it may be an odd one here and there using it. So it's probably still good to go through it. And like you said, it's very similar to the browser, so it's not a problem. Just want to let you know that we're going to mostly be using the browser.
Do you have other trainings coming up as well?
We have another training coming up, yes.
For end user or admin?
They have another end user and admin.
Okay.
We have another, yep.
I can go ahead. Hi, Gideon. I can go ahead and make a note just so that the other trainers will know too. And then if that's helpful. So then this recording will be good because it'll have this one, and maybe the other recording will be, you can have the other through the browser. So you'd actually end up with both. And I can pass that along if that's helpful. Let me just jot down a real quick note here. So the next end user with you all, I'll mention that you're using mostly the browser. Okay, awesome. Thank you. It is helpful to know that. I'm just trying to think if there's any major differences. I also saw a question come through that said, if you're using on your phone, is this the app we would use for people when we're working at home? I think the person is asking if this is the app they would use if they were working from home but using their cell phone, I'm assuming. And I don't know the person's actual first name. It's maybe C. Hillard?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. That's the question I'm asking.
Is this the app that you would be using on your mobile?
No, this is a desktop.
Yeah, so this is a desktop app. This is it's a great question. This is a desktop app, but there is the same app or very, very similar app available on the mobile, which I will cover too. In terms of functionality and the way things look, it's going to look very, very similar. And yes, but we'll cover that too. Great question. So this is just the desktop app. Sure. And it will look very similar if you're using the browser as well. So thank you. I appreciate that. So let's see. We're talking about favorites and contacts. So here, if you click on this head and shoulders icon, that takes you to your contacts. If you click into anyone here, you'll be able to see their name and extension and direct number and email all in one place, as well as their availability. And we'll talk about how to set that in just a moment. Now, here in the upper left-hand corner, you have your little envelope icon. One of the things with RingCentral is that all of your messages will be in one place. So voice, fax, text, all will be in one place. You can sort them out, of course, as well. But again, you'll look for this little envelope icon if you're using this. Alrighty, so in the upper left-hand corner here, you have your phone number. If we click, there we go. If we click on that, that number is sort of a one-stop shop number with RingCentral. So there you're able to make and receive calls, texts, faxes. If people are still faxing you, they can still use that one-stop shop number. And as you can see, when I click into that, that's how I'm able to set my availability. So if I set green available, red is busy, do not disturb is more than just, hey, today is particularly crazy, leave me alone. That will actually send your calls to voicemail. So just be aware of that. And then lastly, if you like to lead the mysterious life, maybe you don't like folks knowing whether you're available or not, you can choose this invisible option. You can also set a message in your tagline here using the little pencil. And there you can say, for example, if you're out of the office for the afternoon or something like that, you can simply set the tagline so people can see that at a glance. What questions do you have at this point before I continue? Any?
Would the ability to set your hours affect that busy and available option? Would that control that as well? I know you can set the hours.
And user hours, yes. So user hours is going to affect that as well. So if my user hours are set from 7 to 4 on Monday through Friday, at 4:01, my calls will go to voicemail. But if you, go ahead.
I was just saying, so if your hours, let's say, are 7 to 4, it would automatically set you as available on that part, or would you still have to set that?
With this, with this, you would still need to set it how you wish to have it set. It doesn't, it's not really linked in a technical sense to anything other than when you're on the phone. So when you're on the phone, and I wish I had someone to demo it, when you're on the phone, there's like a little red phone icon that would display underneath your name. Otherwise, any of these are just of your choosing. Essentially, it's not talking to something else. So it's handy kind of throughout the day, whereas your user hours, you're not going to go in throughout the day and be like, adjust your user hour because I'm going to be out of the office for 2 hours or something. I mean, you could, but this is a quicker way to kind of say, hey, I'm out of the office, or, I'm in the middle of something important. Click do not disturb. That kind of overrides, I guess, those user hours in terms of directing voicemail. Yeah. Great question.
Thank you.
Sure. Any others at this point? All right. So you do have texting capabilities from this. So here it works pretty similar to standard smartphone texting. You click on their name or number and then type a message here. Now you also have audio conferencing capabilities. I'm sure everyone was here thinking that this looks just like a table and chairs, and if so, you are correct. If you click on that table and chairs icon, that will allow you to create an audio conference for up to 1,000 participants. So you and 999 others. You'll have a host access code, participant access, and you'll be able to invite folks with text, email, or start a conference. Now, do you work with international teams at all? Or audio conference-wise, would you ever work with an international team?
No, I don't think so.
No, the suspense is killing me. Okay. If you do, I was just going to say you can use this drop-down menu, and then this will allow you to choose a code for them so that they're not placing an international call. So just something to be aware of if in the future you do. And then faxing, is that something... Are you still in the faxing world, or is that not so relevant to how you all would use this?
Yes, we do. Me and Dispatch do some. Yeah, we do fax some to terminals, yes.
Okay, so good to know.
Currently, we actually have a few fax machines in our office. We wanted to kind of take this one step at a time, so we feel like we probably can move a good bit or possibly all of our faxing into RingCentral eventually, but we've elected to keep the 2 fax machines that we still have.
Okay.
Until we start up and see how everything else works.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll show you just while we're here then if that is relevant. I know it may be a little down the line, but it's pretty simple. So let me just give you a quick peek here. If you do want to compose a fax and you're using the smartphone app here, you can click on the paper icon at the bottom, and then it's as simple as dragging and dropping things. So really straightforward in terms of sending faxes. You can send up to 20 megabytes or roughly 200 pages. You can also schedule it to be sent later or have it sent now, which is kind of a nice feature. And again, you don't need to use any leading digits when you're dialing that fax number. So I know you may not be there just yet, but it's helpful, I think, to take a quick peek, know what your options are, essentially. So I am going to go ahead and place a live call, the big moment everyone has been waiting for. No. I'm going to go ahead and place a call in order to demonstrate a couple of features here. And what it looks like. So this will look very similar to what happens, of course, if you're using the browser as well. So I'm searching for my colleague, click on her. Now this is set to auto answer. So let's see how this goes. There we go. So now we're on a call and we're with Rose. As you can see, it looks pretty familiar. You have your mute and hold options, transfer, etc. And I just want to talk about a couple of these. So with transfer, if we click into that, you have 3 ways to transfer a call. So let's say Rose here would like to speak with Jason. We can say, hey, Jason, Rose is on the line. Would you like to talk with her? And he'll say, sure, send her through. That's the warm transfer. Maybe, however, Rose has called in and we just send her straight through to Jason. That's the blind transfer. Or maybe we know he's out in a meeting. We can send her straight to voicemail. So a couple of different options there in terms of how you can transfer calls. You can also use this flip feature, which in the most general terms allows you essentially to move a call from one device to another. So let's say I've answered this call, I'm on my computer here, but I'm heading out the door and I'd really like to take the call on my cell phone instead. Using this flip feature, I can type in my cell number here, and then that will illuminate the flip feature at the bottom. I can hit flip, and now my call has been moved to my cell phone. So a really handy feature. And then likewise, it works a little bit differently in reverse, but you can move the device from your cell phone to your desktop or to your desk phone as well. So.
Is that transparent to the caller?
Great question. So the caller, I tend to say if they're not paying close attention, they probably won't even hear anything if you do it sort of smoothly enough. From your end of things, I'd say like a quick little like boop, boop, and then that's it. So it's not like a long pause or there's a glitch or they hear beeps or anything like that. Yeah, so relatively transparent, yeah.
Can you have your cell number set rather than having to type it in all the time?
Yes, you can. You can have it set in there so that it's ready to go. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good questions. Any others?
I have a question. What about the park feature? Will it prompt you the number that it's parked on to let someone else know?
So with this desktop phone application, the park feature, excuse me, one sec. The park feature, a frog in my throat. If you park a call, it essentially puts it in a waiting room. And so what will happen is if I hit call park, it will tell me, unfortunately, our demo account doesn't let you park the calls, but if I hit park, it will say, for example, your call is parked on extension star 802 or at star 802. Then anyone can access that code and then retrieve the call. So you do get basically an alert saying this is the code to retrieve the parked call.
But this is an audio alert. It's not going to be displayed on the phone.
Right, right.
Okay, so for that park code that comes up, is that always start at 802, let's say, that we can kind of know in general where it's going to be?
It will be a number from star 800, I think, to 899, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right, yep.
And I believe it would always start with the same first one. You can have multiple parked calls, but it's going to give you the same code the first time around, if I'm not mistaken. That's yeah.
Okay, it just makes it easier for us in here if it's always going to be 800 first, because as far as I know, dispatch is the one that parks most of the phone calls, and it's always 805 currently. So as long as it's always going to be generally the same number, that helps us.
Yes, that's great, and I believe it would be.
And did you say you cannot park multiple calls?
You can park multiple calls.
Okay.
Yes. Obviously, then they each have their own code to retrieve them.
Right.
Like that. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll take a quick peek now. Someone had asked earlier about the mobile device and the app on your mobile phone. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. It is very, very similar. Whoop. Where did we go? Hold on one second. My apologies. I have to jump back to my slideshow here. There we go. So again, this is what it looks like when you're on an active call, and there's that call park feature. As I say, it'll give you a code. Anyone can enter that code. Now, if you're on your mobile device, when I switch the slide, you will notice it looks very similar. So you still have all of these traditional features with the mute and the hold. You have those 3 ways of transferring. You can still park a call on your mobile. You have the flip feature, as I mentioned. The other thing I'd like to point out here is this switch to carrier button. So the switch to carrier button is handy because if you're at work, you're connected to Wi-Fi, or at home on Wi-Fi, and then you step outside, you'll be using data or LTE. If you don't wish to use data, you'd rather use your minutes. So depending on your data plan, you can hit the switch to carrier button, and that will then allow you to use minutes rather than data. So key thing to point out there. But again, in terms of the functionality of the two, they're very similar. So any other questions? I know there was at least one person, I think, that was asking about if they're working from home, would they be using the app on your phone on the mobile? So this is what that app would look like. Any other questions? Okay. So now we will move on to your physical desk phone, the Polycom VVX310. Now, as I mentioned, this meeting is being recorded, and you will have a copy of it probably later today or tomorrow. So with that, the slides are included, so I won't go over each and every key press. You don't have to take frantic notes about how to do things like transfer a call, but I do want to give you some key takeaways. So we'll take a look now at your phone. So here you've got your home button, your scroll and select, voicemail, transfer, hold, your headset pickup, speakerphone, mute button, and then of course your volume control. So there's 4 ways to answer a call. You could press the line key, you could press the answer key here, use the speaker button, or just in case you think that everything has now changed in this new world of apps, you can still simply pick up the receiver. So hopefully that's a good comfort to some. Again, for outgoing calls, no need to press a 9 or a 1 before dialing, so you'll just use straight 10-digit dialing. Now to access recent calls, you can use the scroll button, and here in this call list, if you see someone you want to call back, you can do so by clicking that dial button. So a shortcut in essence in order to call someone back. When you're on an active screen, these soft keys at the bottom of the screen will change. So that's kind of a key takeaway. Just know that these soft keys across the bottom of the screen are going to change functionality depending on whether you're on an active call. If it was me, and maybe this is me alone, but I had a new device, I'd be thinking, okay, I need to make a conference call. How do I do that? Where's the button? And it's just one of those things where it's not going to appear to you until you're already on an active call. So just be mindful of that. So here, I'm on an active call. I could choose to hold the call, end the call, transfer, etc. And again, there are those 3 types of transferring. So there's the warm transfer, and these are your step-by-step instructions. There's the blind transfer. And I know it looks like a lot of steps, but essentially once you've done it a few times, it will be second nature. And again, you'll have the slides to refer to too. So you've got your blind transfer, and then you also have the ability to transfer to voicemail. This one, I think it's essentially if you're transferring to voicemail, it's kind of a subset of a blind transfer. So just keep that in mind. You'll still have to click this blind feature. Ending the call. You can hang up the receiver or press the end call soft key for a more gentle hang up if you wish. In terms of checking voicemail, you'll use this envelope icon, and you can also press, then from there, you'll be asked to enter that 6-digit voicemail PIN, and that's that one that we set up at the very beginning of things. So call park again, you have to be on an active call and then click more in order to get to that feature. There's your park feature. So once you have pressed park, the phone will announce the park location. To retrieve the parked call, then you'll dial the announced park location. Lastly, here's a handy resource in order to create a conference call. So step by step. Any questions so far on this physical phone before we move on to the IP6000? Any questions?
I did have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we have the Cisco 7931 VoIP phone. It's an older phone, but it has 18 buttons on the right that we can use. I mean, there are more buttons, but we have 18 spots that we could hit a button and just go directly to someone's extension.
Okay.
How does that compare to the way the Polycom VV311 works?
Well, as you can see on this one, you don't have, you're saying you have 18 kind of like these keys on the side?
Yes, down the right side of the phone.
So we can take a look when we go into setting some of your speed dial contacts and see. I believe you'll have 6 at a glance here, right? So, but the first 2 lines will actually be your name. So you can think of that as kind of your main line and then a call waiting line. That essentially will give you 4 buttons where you can, press someone at a glance. I believe on this one you can access more by using this scroll feature. But we can take a little bit closer look at that too when we get into setting some of those speed dial contacts. So essentially, to answer your question, you won't have as many at a glance just by virtue of the fact that, yes, if you have 18 buttons now, you've only got 6 on this guy. I don't know if that fully answered your question. Were you saying just how would you adjust for that kind of, or?
Well, I was wondering how many we had, and if there was, I see that there are 6 buttons there, so I thought it's probably limited, but I didn't know whether we could scroll to more. If we can scroll to more, that's
yes.
acceptable, I think.
Yes, and I believe you can scroll to more. Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I thought that's what you were asking, but I just want to make sure I understood clearly.
How many people can be on a conference call, or is there a limit?
For a conference call, it's up to 1,000. So that's just the audio conference. Up to 1,000 folks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There is a limit on the video calls that you're making. So when we're saying 1,000, that's only for audio. Yes,
only for audio. And that's 1,000 including you. So not to split hairs, but if your guest list is 1,000, you're going to have to cut one person because that includes the host.
I don't ever want to talk to 1,000 people.
You never know. Okay. All right. So moving on, let's take a look here now at the IP6000. So this phone is pretty straightforward, and there's some overlap between the two, but your key features here are your pickup and hang up button, your redial button, you've got your volume controls here, and then your mute. With this one, the key thing to remember is kind of as your starting point, you're going to want to go to menu, and that will allow you to access features and then status options. So you have do not disturb, forward in your contact directory. Those are found under features. So again, you would go to menu, then you'll have to go down the features path. You can use the soft keys here to scroll and select those. Yep.
Jesse, may I interject something here just for clarification for some of the other people who are on the line here? This is the phone that would be in our main conference room. We're going to have 2 conference room phones. The secondary conference room phone is a 5,000, but this one would be the phone that would be in our main conference room.
Mick, I was hoping to have one of those at both conference tables. Is that correct?
You will have one at both conference tables. This one will be a 6,000, and the one in your office conference room table will be a 5,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
You get a conference phone. You get a conference phone. No. Yes. And so, yeah, so then there's a lot of overlap too. I can show you at the end of our training how to find more resources, but there's also quite a bit of overlap on those 2 devices. So a lot of what I'm saying now will apply to the 5,000 as well. So you can use the pickup and hang up button or the new call key in order to place a call. And then again, when you're on an active call, it is one of those things where these things will change. So you've got hold, end call, and then under more, that's where you can access the transfer or the conference features. I know we don't go into great detail on that device, so are there any other questions regarding that? All right. So
I did notice that, just real quickly, I did notice that there's only one Ethernet port on that. Is it possible to daisy chain with that phone the way that we do with the VVX 311s? What we're going to do with those is we hook the Ethernet cable coming into the phone, and then the phone acts as a switch to bring it back out to our PCs. I don't think that's this has that capability, but I just wanted to double check that.
Boy, that question I don't know offhand. Gideon, do you happen to know?
No, but I can take a quick look at that online while we're chatting.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Unfortunately, that one I can't answer offhand. So thank you for looking into that. We'll see if we can get you an answer. If not, we can always I can always follow up too.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So we'll talk now about meetings. We're in a RingCentral meeting, so some of this is going to look very familiar to you. If you click on the RingCentral Meetings app, you can adjust your audio and video settings here. You can join a current meeting, view upcoming and recorded meetings. I'm going to give you a small tip, which for me was not intuitive, so I'm passing this along to you. If you click into meetings here and you see you've moved on to the next screen, the way to get back to what is essentially your home screen is clicking this video button, which again wasn't quite intuitive because I kept thinking, well, I'm not trying to take a video. I'm not doing anything regarding videos right now. But again, that's how you can get back. So I take a second to point that out to people. As far as scheduling a new meeting, there are a couple of different ways to go about it. You can go directly from this app. If you click on that schedule button, it will pop up a window where you're able to set the subject, date, and time, and then invite your attendees. So we'll take a little bit closer look at that in a moment. You're in a meeting now, so this does look familiar, I'm sure. Again, you can mute and unmute your audio. You can start and stop video as I did. As the host, I'm able to monitor the participants, so great job, everyone. I've been monitoring closely. Everyone's doing well. You can share your screen as I've been doing, and then you also have this chat feature too. You can also, so as I mentioned, you could schedule the meeting using that icon. You can also schedule through Outlook. So is Outlook something most of you are using as well?
We exclusively do not use Outlook.
Okay, I will skip this part. So for you all, you'd probably want to schedule straight through straight through the app, basically. And then again, the window it pops up is the same where you're setting the date, time, and subject and inviting your attendees. And then what they receive is very similar to what you received today, where you have email instructions in order to join online or join by calling in. Any other questions, though, about meetings before we move on to messaging?
Can the meetings be done through the browser as well?
I believe so. That's a good question. I haven't looked at that, to be honest, but I think so. Gideon, do you know offhand if meetings can be done through the browser? He may be busy researching. I am fairly positive.
Sorry, I believe they can.
Yeah, I think so. And I apologize. I can look into that too. I just jot a note down.
Okay.
So now let's take a quick peek at messaging.
When I'm in the browser, I have the choice to start a new video meeting.
Okay, good. So I know too, if you go to Service Web, which we'll take a look at later, I think you can access it from that portal too.
Okay.
So I'll take a look when we get to that.
We were thinking of putting everyone on glip.com, and it seems like you can do most things from there. Use the phone, meetings, chat,
yes,
which is pretty much what we're going to want to use that stuff for.
Okay. So when you're saying the browser, is that what you're thinking of as the browser, the glip.com site, or were you trying?
Yeah.
Just to access the messages. Okay. So yeah, and they are definitely moving more towards that functionality. So if that's what you're using, you will definitely be in good shape. Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's talk. That's actually the next thing we were going to talk about was messaging. So I am actually in glip.com here. Give me one moment. Okay, so here we are in glip.com. Actually, I'm going to refresh this. So I don't know, are you currently using some sort of messaging platform for Teams and that sort of thing currently?
Right now, we just use Google Hangouts to message back and forth, so this will take the place of that.
Okay. So there is some overlap. So if you've used other messaging platforms in the past, it will look somewhat familiar. But essentially with Glip, I tend to think of this as 3 different columns, and the left being your directory, the middle being sort of the heart and soul of things in your communication, and the right being the shelf. So you can add people to this who are either internal or external contacts. You can enter their name or email address and then add them to the conversation here, to Glip. You can make someone a favorite simply by clicking the star next to their name. You can create teams by clicking on the plus sign. So let's say we have a team, team volunteer day. So we can create our team. We can add individuals by searching for them. This is a new demo account, so I apologize. I'm still used to searching for all my old standbys here. But again, we can just add whoever we'd like to this team. And essentially, when you set it up, you're serving as an admin, but you can relinquish some of that admin responsibility if you like by making the team public by clicking this on. And then once we've created a team, we'll take a closer look. So our ever popular Team We Love Corgis is here. As you can see, this conversation goes back a ways. All sorts of helpful things. Again, this is my demo account, just so folks are not concerned about how I'm spending my days at work here. But in this demo account, our conversation has gone on and on about corgis, right? One of the nice things is if we need to locate something that's been added, documents that have been added in the conversation as attachments or included here at the bottom will appear in your shelf. So if you have, say, that important spreadsheet your colleague sent you back a couple months ago, you don't need to scroll up to find it. It'll appear over here on the shelf. So that is one handy feature. And then again, in terms of adding something, you can simply drag and drop to post something in this file. So really helpful way to...
So if you were to have, right now, Dispatch might send something out every day through email. This might be a good spot for that, so they can store their updates and everyone gets them and they can scroll back through them, and it's not in an email format. It's in
exactly
this Glip central repository.
Yep. So it is. I think it's a handy format. I mean, we use it here obviously all the time. But another thing, if you're doing that, is you can pin things as well if that's helpful. Where they're the types of things they're sending out, you may want to pin something. This does stay indefinitely. You can go back and edit things and delete posts. I've noticed the edit, you only have a certain time frame to edit posts, but you can go ahead and delete them as well. And then, as I say, otherwise everything is there indefinitely. Any other questions regarding anything we've covered before I talk just a bit about some of your basic user settings?
Yeah, I have a question here with the messaging if we were to use it. A lot of us in Dispatch, like we're working in other programs. Is there a way to get it to pop up in your screen, like not within the tab for messaging?
Pop up in
It does. You mean when you receive a message? Christina, do you mean when you receive a message?
Yeah, or even like working in Google Hangouts, like we don't use the tab, like it pops up. I think we downloaded like the extension file or something, and it's kind of like a window within itself.
You're looking for
this will be
right, Christina?
This will be a tab. It'll be an open tab, so you will have to have it. You know, you don't have to be focused on it, but it'll pop up a notification when you get a message, like you do when you're not in email and it pops up on the side.
Okay, but it has to be a tab though.
Yes.
Okay. And then one other question about the contacts in general, setting them up. Is that something each individual user is going to have to add?
I think when you click on all, everyone is listed there. Right now, only Mick, Chad, and myself are there, and I've talked to those three, so I can't say that definitively. But there wasn't, when I was in mine, there was like an all list, and it showed everyone who was available.
So if we would add contacts for like outside customers, would that show up for everybody as well?
That I don't know. Some of this will be trial and error unless they can help, unless we can ask right now.
What was, I couldn't quite hear the second part.
He's asking if we add an outside contact, like Chad is the dispatch manager, and say he talks to someone from a terminal. Would that be someone that finance can access? They might not want that in their contact.
Sorry.
And we're also just thinking in general as far as, does everybody have to set up all these contacts, or can one person do this work and everybody has access to those contacts?
Generally what we see is once you're set up any internal contacts, everyone will already, it's not like everyone's starting from scratch and having to enter all of those internal contacts. If you have external contacts or personal contacts, of course, then you would have to add those yourself. But generally when things are set up, they would already have the ones you need in terms of internal folks.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And we used to have the capability of having like a feature key, like a speed dial, so to say, for a customer. I'm assuming that's not an option either. You can
still have a speed dial key for someone who's an outside person, you're saying. The key thing is, and I don't know exactly why this is, maybe Gideon knows the why, but you need to put in at least in one internal speed dial person before it will allow you to add external speed contacts. So once you add one internal, you can include others.
So like, let's say I add it from my phone. Is that speed dial number going to be the same for everybody?
In your office?
Mm-hmm.
No, that would be, you could do that. That's on a personal level. And that's about, I'm getting to the part where I cover that sort of thing. So with that, you could certainly set, your contacts, your speed dial contacts are something that you would set. So it's based on whatever preferences you have.
Is there any ability to do that? Right now, we do have a central list
of speed dial contacts.
Maybe, there's 99 contacts or 100 or something like that, and they're kind of memorized over the years. So that's what Christina's getting at. I think everyone just hits, certain speed dial, and they know it gets a certain customer.
Yep. So I could see that.
I was just going to say, it'd also be great that we have a list of customers in our dispatch software. It'd be nice if you could transfer that information into RingCentral and store all those customers' phone numbers, that we could just search in RingCentral by the customer's name and have that phone number pop up and we can call them. That way we don't have to go to our dispatch system, find the phone number, then come to RingCentral and dial it. It'd be nice if we could put all that in there already.
So we have
everybody in the dispatch system have access to that.
We have certain integrations which were not included in this project that you can integrate to Salesforce and, pull out. I mean, I'm just giving Salesforce as an example, but pull out the contact and everything and dial directly. This was not included as part of this delivery, but we do have support for certain systems, CRMs and things like that, in order to pull out the contact and dial directly.
Gideon, how about importing a CSV file if we provide you with that?
We'll need to talk to Hannah about it. I'm not sure how that works, but that's something we can discuss.
All right, very good.
Also with speed dial contacts, there may be a way from the admin portal to set, again, I don't want to speak to this too specifically because I don't know everything that you are trying to, what your end goals are within the admin portal. So I don't want to say this in a way that it could conflict with essentially other goals, other roles you're giving users, that sort of thing. But I believe there's a way that if you had everyone in a certain group, you would be able to program their presence or their speed dials and have everyone have similar, but you'd have to, you'd have to go about it and create, I think, a whole group for those people. And I don't know what other ways you've sort of sliced and diced things in terms of how your user settings are created, how global they are, I guess is what I'm trying to say, whether everyone's got a lot of the similar settings across the board or not, but you could, I believe, do that. Let's take
Ideally, we would like to have personal speed dials for each individual and global speed dials for everyone to access.
So if it's okay, so I understand what you're getting at. I'm wondering, I don't know if there would be a way to do it where it could be both global and, I think you could get some global ones, but I think they would overwrite the personal ones, or, does that make sense? Or Gideon, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think we need to take it with a BND guy or girl in our case.
So we have about 10 minutes left, so I do want to at least be able to show you a few things, and some of them do relate pretty directly to what we've been talking about. So let me just take a quick look here in our service portal. So with that, I'm going to type over the address service.ringcentral.com, so you have that as a reference. And from there, you'll log in with either your email or your phone number and a password. Got it on the first try today. Perfect. So this is, for most users, it's going to look like this. And you've got a lot of familiar things across the top of your screen here. Just as a starting point, everything that I'm covering today can be found under settings. So just know that if you're thinking later, where was this or that she showed us, it will be under settings. If you go into user details, here you can record your username. Now the system will use text-to-speech technology. If for some reason you end up as Deborah, you've always been Deborah and that's how you'd like to stay, you can go in and click edit, and then this will allow you to re-record your name. So using the drop-down menu, you can select record my name. Here, that record button allows you to record in 3 ways. You can either import a file, you can use your computer microphone, or something I think is very handy is that you can also have the system call you back on another device. So if you wanted to have it call you on your cell and you can step aside where it's quiet or something like that, you have that option. Now, someone mentioned earlier those user hours when we were talking about availability. So this is where you would set your user hours. Again, this is something that I don't know if your admins are planning on setting globally for people or if they're able to adjust them themselves. Do you know?
We have everyone set for 24/7, and then each person can set those themselves if they want to. Chad, I think, has already done that for himself.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like there's one that's already set up, but if you want to adjust your user hours, you can, and you'll go into here and click edit, and then you can toggle on and off days of the week, change your hours from the drop-down menu. This comes into play in a couple of places, but one of them is simply if you're using the desktop phone application, it's the weekend, let's say, and you're checking out that email, just to give it a quick glance, does that mean all of a sudden I'm going to start receiving calls? Well, no. If you're set to these user hours, the system will know, oh, it's Saturday. They're not on, and they'll send the call straight to voicemail. So just one place that comes in. Now here is where you can set those speed dial people. In RingCentral world, we refer to it as presence. If you click into phones and numbers and then phones, and then you click on presence, this will allow you to add all of those speed dial contacts. And this is how you would, I think, as an admin, be able to do some things globally. But where I'm not sure how that would work is I think that it would make sense that you'd be able to do it globally and then individual users could add personal contacts at the same time, but I'm just not sure if there would be a conflict between those two.
I think on the soft phone you can do that easily. On the physical phone, you'll be limited to what you can do.
Which, yeah, that's a very good point. The difference between the two, for sure. So here, if I wanted to add a speed dial contact or presence, again, you will always appear on the first 2 lines because you can think of that as your main line and then like a call waiting line. I have an open line here so I can select a user. If I want Tom to be a speed dial contact, I'll click on him and hit done. So again, this is how you're able to add these presence folks to your phones. One nice feature is that you have this preview on my phones option, which allows you to see what that's actually going to look like. All right, so next we'll talk about screening, greeting, and hold music. This is something, again, that can be tied to your user hours. So depending, it doesn't sound like it's set up that manner for you all. If most people by default are 24/7, but just know that it is an option to have different greetings based on whether you're within your user hours or outside of business hours. You can also block calls. So spam, in this day and age, there are ways to block it. And then lastly, let's talk about call handling and forwarding. So what is call handling and forwarding? Well, that essentially lets you determine which devices ring, in what order, and for how long. So which devices ring, in what order, and for how long. Here, by default, it's going to be set to ring your desktop and your mobile app first. So by default, it'll ring your applications first. If you have those, I should say, you can toggle this off. So if you just wanted, for example, your physical desk phone to ring first, you could do that. You would just toggle these off again. Or let's say you don't have the application on your mobile phone, but you want your mobile phone to ring. Again, I can toggle that on. In terms of those devices, you can reorder the way in which they ring by just dropping and dragging them. Right now, they're set to ring sequentially. So here, it's going to ring my desk phone 4 times, followed by my mobile 4 times. If I don't get to it in those 8 rings, I'm actually going to turn this off. Those 8 rings, then it will go to voicemail. Now you can also have it ring simultaneously. So in this instance, it's ringing my desk phone and my mobile 4 times each, but at the same time. So I have just those 4 rings, otherwise it'll go to voicemail. This is also where you could go to forward calls to other colleagues. So here I can click on these 3 dots, choose a colleague, let's say Bobby, and now she appears in this lineup. So as it is now, it's still going to be ringing all of my devices simultaneously. If I know, hey, I'm going to be out of the office tomorrow and I want Bobby to take all of my calls, I can just toggle those off and now my calls will go directly to her. There are a couple of things with that. So if someone calls in and their call is forwarded, they don't have an indication that that call has been forwarded. Likewise, the person who is picking up that call doesn't have an indication that it's a forwarded call. So just something to be aware of. And then the other thing is at the default, by default, the call will then go to your voicemail if they don't pick it up. So if I'm forwarding my calls to Bobby and it rings 4 times and she doesn't get to it, it's going to go back to my voicemail. You can change that, but just know that that's the default. Any questions at this point? I know I'm going a little quickly, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't run out of time to cover a couple things. So, questions?
We did have something happen today where someone was using the RingCentral app on their mobile phone, and then a call came in and overrode that call. So it disconnected his Bluetooth and overrode that call, so he missed some time or it completely disconnected. I don't know exactly what happened, but he did say that it like overrode the RingCentral app. Do you know what we can do to prevent that from happening?
That definitely sounds like something, yes, something to definitely look into. So it wasn't a call coming in through RingCentral that overrode it. It was a call that was coming into just his mobile phone. Do you know?
I believe so. Correct. Mick, do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah, that was Wendell and I was with him.
So he's on a call.
I was actually on the phone. I was on the call with Wendell through the RingCentral app on the phone, and then he had a outside call come into his cell phone, to the cell phone directly, not through the app.
Right.
And it overrode the app, and he didn't hear what I was saying to him. And it also disconnected his Bluetooth. Yeah.
And I think this is something to do with the phone setup.
So it is a setting that could be changed to fix the issue.
Yeah, because I don't have this issue, for example.
Yeah, I've never heard of this before. Obviously, this would be a huge problem if this was happening on a regular basis. But I'm just trying to think through.
Can you, Gideon? That doesn't quite help. Like, what do you mean it has to do with the phone setup? We would need to direct him as to what to do.
So as we instructed, I suggest at this point open a case with our support. They'll try to help you with that.
They did, but they sent us an iPhone response, and we don't have iPhones.
Okay.
Wendell does. Wendell has.
No, I have an Android.
Oh, you do? Oh, never mind.
So yeah, I have a Google phone. So I looked through all my settings for integration in the app and different things. I couldn't find anything about call integration yet.
Copy me on the case, but reply to support and tell them that you need those instructions for the Android as well, not only for iPhones.
Okay.
It'd just be something that it'd be nice that everyone, the reason I brought it up is because we have a lot of people on this call and lots of people are going to be using it with Androids as well. So if it was something that we could tell everyone at once rather than trying to pass it around, one person at a time as it comes along, it'd be nice.
Yeah, I think if they have instructions for iPhone, they can probably provide the same for, for other types of phones. So just reply on this case, copy me for visibility so I can follow up with them and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and like I say, it's not something I've heard of before, so I'm wondering I was trying to see if it was something related to what I was just discussing, but this is all about how to send the call and where to route RingCentral calls. So if the call that was kicking it out was a non-RingCentral call, I'm trying to figure out how that would, how to approach that. So the tech support people would be better probably at troubleshooting that, obviously, than I am. But I'm sorry that it sounds like it's obviously frustrating, so I apologize for that, and hopefully they'll be able to get you the instructions for the Android too.
Okay.
So we have just a tiny bit of time, and I apologize. I just want to cover two quick things. We have at the very bottom of the screen, this is how you would set your voicemail greeting. So there are some other greetings you'll see throughout screening, greeting, and hold music, and it kind of can trip people up a little bit sometimes because you will see other greetings, as I say. But the key greeting that you're going to send or want is your voicemail greeting, and that's all the way at the bottom of the screen here under Messages. So just be aware of that. Lastly, you have notifications. With notifications, you can choose to be notified of all sorts of things: messages, faxes, missed calls. Does that mean you need to be notified of all of these things? No, of course not. You can toggle off and on what's important to you. So if you've got, you don't care about faxes or texts, is nice. You can toggle on, let's say, if you only care about missed calls, to receive notifications about those missed calls by email and or text message. So I know we covered a lot today, and I appreciate all the great questions. I'm sorry I wasn't able to answer all of them. And I don't know, I just wanted to point out that Gideon did the research on the conference phones there and said that the conference phones have only one Ethernet connection, so they cannot act as a bridge to the PC. And so I just wanted to make sure that's in the chat box that you saw that. The last thing I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Sure. The last thing I wanted to point out is there is more information that can be found at support.ringcentral.com. So support.ringcentral. And I'll chat that over. It does have a pretty robust search engine, so some of the specific questions you have, it probably can help with getting more info on a few of those. So just be aware of that. And then the very last thing is we have a training survey, which I'll pass along as well. So it takes about 30 seconds. We always appreciate your feedback if you have thoughts on things, and I'll copy and paste the link to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of webinars on our site that can guide you through additional features and questions that you might have.
Yeah, once you get to support, if you click into RingCentral University, that will allow you to access the webinars and videos. So here you've gone to support.ringcentral. If you click into RingCentral University here, takes just a moment. Here we can connect with webinars, videos, and a lot of different training resources. So I apologize that we're out of time, but thank you so much for your time today, and really appreciate all of the great questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.